Welcome back, everybody, to the Duelyst World Championship December qualifier. We have gone through one match so far between Solfid and M83, in which Solfid was victorious with a 3-0 finish. Now it's time for MaSer and Elena. So, Mogwai, you've casted these people before. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about them?
Right, guy 77 versus Elena. Got that right? I want to make sure. Yeah. All right, so I'm not muted, first of all. Right?
Not muted.
Okay,
You're good.
That's I always fear that.
Next time, I'm just going to pretend you are muted and just see what you actually say when you're muted.
Bry Guy 77 and Elena are two very top, level players. Bry Guy, we actually, did cover a game of his earlier on today in the Duelyst Pro League, and he defeated the Grandmaster R Moriar, which is, no easy task. And Elena, aka Brian, is a very top level competitor too. I believe he placed second in the Snow Chaser Cup this Christmas around that time. He lost to Closest Dragon, I believe, in the finals. Unless I'm mistaken. Very, very high level player that's always at the top, always contributing to, tier lists, and very knowledgeable of the metagame. Very into Cassiva. I always see him playing Cassiva a lot, using it as his main source for laddering. So it's going to be an interesting matchup between these two. I think these two players have a lot of similarities, but I do like Elena's approach. He's very methodical, and very rarely do I see him misplay, really. So it's going to be interesting to see how these two fare.
And we're kind of getting the MMR host crew. Pretty much we had Solfid and M83 in the first game, and now we're in match number 2 with Elena, who is also part of MMR host. And then, as you said, MaSer, a very prominent tournament player there. So Skarzig, you've casted them as well. Kind of taking a look at this and the fact that most of the time when they have faltered, it was to previous Grandmasters. Do you think both of these players have what it takes to become Grandmasters themselves?
Yes, these players very solid. Elena has always demonstrated very fierce competitive spirit whenever I have casted this player. The moment that sticks out to me the most was when Elena was dropped into the loser's bracket during one tournament and then just went undefeated for the rest of the tournament, got the bracket reset at the end, and then took the whole thing. And so major respect there for just the perseverance and endurance there. MaSer, I think that by now his reputation speaks for himself.
Yeah. It looks like in chat, too, according to them, in that Snow Chaser Cup, MaSer had defeated Kolos the Dragon. So a lot of back and forth there. I got it wrong.
But I want to point out, I thought I said Bry Guy, didn't I?
I thought you were trolling.
No. Why did you correct me?
I thought that you were just trolling MaSer.
I heard what you meant. I heard MaSer in my head. We're just on that connection level where I know what you meant. So
I'm sorry, guys. There. I'm sorry. Okay, so it's MaSer. It's MaSer versus Elena. All right, that's okay. So I'm very excited to see MaSer. Actually, one of the top players, one of my favorite players to watch. My second favorite Russian. I like him quite a bit, and he's one of the top players. So this is actually very hype. Very hype. Really wanted to see MaSer today. Awesomeness.
Very, very exciting. So with MaSer and Elena, this is round bracket. To remind everybody in the audience, if you're hopping in for the first time, this is the December qualifier for the Duelyst World Championship, meaning today is the Swiss bracket. The top 8 then compete in an elimination rounds tomorrow, single elimination bracket, and then the final man or woman standing then becomes a Grandmaster to compete in the Duelyst World Championship later in this year. And with MaSer and Elena, we do know that this is once again going to be a Cassiva mirror match to start off. Skarzig, Mogwai did the honors of making the prediction first last time, and he was correct in who he thought was going to win. We're putting the pressure on you this time. Who do you think is going to take it in round number 2?
Well, Miguel's been on a nice streak here with his predictions. I won't lie. It's a really great start.
Thank you for pointing that out.
The meme is no longer viable with the.
I really...
It never was, but whatever.
I am a big fan of Elena, though, so I do want to give it to him. Probably 3-2, however.
Okay, so 3-2 for Elena on the side of Skarzig and Mogwai.
That made it very easy for me. All I gotta say is go, Russia. MaSer's going to take it, and he will do so with his, flame blood, ectropic gaze shenanigans. I think he will do so. I think 3-2 is about right, honestly. These two players are honestly very evenly matched. I do think MaSer has a little bit more credentials than Elena, but very little. I think both of them can take it, but I will vouch for the good old Russian. The nicest Russian out there.
So either way, it seems both of you predict that it's going to be a long match between these two. But don't forget, everybody in the audience, we do want to know what you have to say. So make sure to tweet at @PlayDuelyst with the hashtag DWC, as we will be sharing those thoughts throughout the broadcast. But it is time for round number 2 between MaSer and Elena in this Casava mirror matchup. Who is going to win this Conquest Best of 5 series? Let's find out.
Let's do this. MaSer on the left, Elena on the right. We see the cast of a mirror, which we already casted before. And we see Grandmaster Variax in Elena's hand. Wow.
So that's a really interesting inclusion for Casava. Typically, you see it more for Lilith because you develop 2 5/5s. But Grandmaster Variax, what it does is it changes Casava's Bloodborne spell to generate... what's the name of the units? It generates bodies on
Fiends.
every friendly shadow... Fiends.
Yeah.
On friendly shadow creep tiles, and they're 4/4s. And so you're able to generate those turn after turn after turn. It gives you an alternate late game win condition. Because Casava, despite her struggles sometimes with drawing Obliterate and things like that in the late game, still is able to consistently get to the late game. And that's what you really want with this Bloodborne spell. If MaSer doesn't play this aggressive enough and Elena is able to get to that 9 mana plus and just starts dropping, infinite 4/4s, then we could see this come down to just a choke out.
Without a doubt. I want to emphasize, that was a beautiful display of execution by MaSer right there, eliminating the Abyssal Crawler with a Sphere of Darkness and utilizing the Blood Tier to fully trade with a Ooze. If Ooze trades off with a Blood Tier and that's all it does, it's not really the most successful Ooze ever. Let's just leave it at that. As MaSer also positions the Healing Mystic out of Elena's reach, so you can utilize that body to trade off with something other than General if he chooses to do so. As you said, Grandmaster Variax can also be very, very, very impactful in this matchup, because this is one matchup in which a Grandmaster Variax from Casava I think it's very easily going to see play, because Casava is not the fastest General out there unless you're running a very fast list, but I don't think that's the case with MaSer. His list seems to be clearly more mid-range style, as we see the Sunsteel Defender in his hand as well. Interesting tech options.
Yeah, so MaSer looking probably to close this out in the early mid-game, weaken his opponent, and then probably get that finisher with the Spectral Revenant.
And
now with Elena, wow.
This Dancing Blades is pretty good. It's pretty good indeed. It is going to be forced to be developed on a Shadow Creep tile, and I'm pretty sure that is Elena has the advantage when it comes to creeps by far. If he continues to develop said creeps, this Grandmaster Variax that he's going to potentially develop next turn could be so threatening. Oh my god.
Yeah, and Grandmaster Variax has a really strong body in its own right.
Yeah, it's a 7/7. It's massive. It's very big.
Right,
Hard
and
to
so
keep down.
And Casava can potentially, deal with that immediately. But once the next turn rolls around and you use your Bloodborne spell to generate all those 4/4s, which is a very respectable and dangerous stat line, that's something that Casava simply can't deal with very well. She's really good at single target removal.
Exactly. Like I don't know how MaSer is going to deal with these fiends, because I see, I don't think he can pressure Elena enough to stop him from developing Variax the next turn.
Yeah, we even have the Abyssal Juggernaut taking the Demonic Lore out of the equation, and so that's going to be one less removal for a Fiend or for Grandmaster Variax itself. Both players going into 7 mana here, and Elena's just now starting to take 2 damage. And look at all of these creep tiles.
Oh my god, I don't see a world in which you don't go Grandmaster Variax here. It's just Oh my, it's so
Just
strong.
walk away. Very
It's
axe.
so strong. Place it on his face. Oh boy, it's happening. He's actually no. I think very smartly. Yeah, he's gonna body block with it. Oh boy. Oh boy. Here it comes. Here it
And
comes.
so now, next turn, Elena's Bloodborne spell, costing 3 mana,
It
will
is awesome
generate... Exactly, it's awesome. And it will generate a 4/4 fiend on every friendly Shadow Creep tile. Right now, MaSer does have the opportunity to maybe position his units on top of the Shadow Creep to stop those spawns, but all you're doing is just, trying to plug that hole. You aren't doing anything to actually pressure your opponent or close out the game. Once Variax drops, you have to just go into kill mode to try to finish it off before the Bloodborne spell value increments too much.
You are on the clock. You are on the clock without a doubt. And this is you can see MaSer pulling the trigger here, just going fully offensive with that Primus Fist onto the Dancing Blades, trying to get as much damage as he can. That is actually double. I did not see that. That was double Primus Fist. And Elena with a bit of a confused face here, as I'm not sure what he's confused about. That's a very solid play. And it really pressures him, which is what MaSer needs to do here. Like this, he has a very powerful Bloodborne spell now, but is it too late? I think he has to opt to go for double healing Mystic here and BBS. Like he has to do this to stay alive.
And
like, to make sure
the other implication of this play is that the Bloodborne spell is generating bodies now, and you lose out on that ping. So he can't really cleanly trade into these Primus Fists the way you normally would as Cassava. And the Light Bender right now in Elena's hand is pretty clunky. You don't want to clear your own creep tiles.
Indeed. I'm excited to see some... I'm so pumped to see some fiends here. I'm so pumped to see some fiends here. It's happening. It's happening. This is actually like the first time I see this in a tournament. Oh boy.
Right, especially including Variax and Cassava, recognizing
exactly. Like, it's not
that you're
common
going to
at all.
see a lot of mirror matches, right? And so taking advantage of the tendency of your opponent to bring it into the late game. Look at that artwork.
That's crazy. That's so much. Oh my god. But the thing is, a lot of them are very far away. Far away. Like MaSer, oof, he's still got a lot of damage to put out, and I don't know. He's on the clock, and I don't know if he can pull this off now. Like, this is just so much power. And Elena can pull this off next turn again. Again, he can do this again. Oh, this is just too massive.
And so that's
Wait,
going to be huge bodies that threaten damage. They also restrict your movement. They restrict where you can summon your units. They're body blocking.
This is insane. This is actually insane. All these, like, this is the first time that I see such a powerful Variax with Cassava being applied. Like, you normally see like you said, you normally see Variax with Elise. This is so many of these. Like, MaSer only has a few turns to work here, but he has managed to put Elena down to 7. So if he is able to top deck something like a Spectral Revenant, he could be in business here. He's also dealt with a lot of the Shadow Creep tiles. So this incoming Fiend, oh, the Rite of the Undervolt.
So he can write and then play more Fiends. The problem is that, again, being left at 7 is very, very scary versus Cassava.
Dude. Especially if MaSer's able to top deck something like... What could he work for here? I think he needs Revenant. I think what he needs is clearly Revenant here. Because right now, Elena cannot body block efficiently because those Shadow Creep tiles are MaSer's, not his. This is a key turn here. Depending on what Elena does, this could mean the end for him, or it could mean the end for MaSer. Like, this is the deciding turn, without a doubt. This is the deciding turn. It really depends on whether MaSer can pull the trigger, or if he's going to fall short, then he's just going to be overwhelmed by so many bodies. Like, these Fiends are so numerous. And 4/4 stats, man, they deal, like, they're not hard to remove. Like, they're hard to remove, sorry. And just so many of them. But like I said, look at the right side of the map. Look at all those Shadow Creep tiles that are purple. Those are not Elena's. All right. Abyssal Scar, the awesome Abyssal Scar is being applied here.
And now, with the way this turn is developing, Elena will potentially, if he survives, be able to Sunsteel.
Can't do this. He can't outpace this. How
Yeah.
can he avoid this? He has to find like a
So
safe zone.
close.
Oh my god.
So close.
This is crazy. This is actually crazy. He's got an army. He's got an army.
He's got a couple turns though.
Oh,
because the
Kalino.
Fiends-
Kalino.
Oh god.
GG.
Kalino, yeah. All these fiends just walk in and
GG.
trade. And now Elena is healing back from the brink. Shout out to MaSer for recognizing that, he needed to go in and apply as much pressure as possible.
MaSer with the auto concede there. As soon as he sees Kalino drop down, he's like, I am out of here. GG. Wow. That was awesome.
Yeah, so one thing for sure, whenever we talk about Grandmaster Variax, we're usually talking about Lilith. So, Skarzig, did it surprise you to see Elena running it in his Cassava deck?
I was very surprised. This is the kind of really scary tech choices that can really throw a wrench at your opponent. But we even saw this in the last set. Opening up with Cassava is a really safe bet because she has decent matchups against everybody. You get to feel out your opponent a little bit and just start the match off that way. Very safe. And so by basically predicting this, that you'd be most likely going up against a control deck, that the Variax actually would become very strong and was able to develop a lot of shadow creep in the early game on top of that.
Mm-hmm. So with that play, of course, you have to have enough shadow creeps available so that the awesome Bloodborne spell can actually be of use there. So Mogwai, how did Elena perform in the first half of the game to enable a prime environment? Well, somewhat. I mean, MaSer's still stuck in there, but a optimal place for him to be spawning these creatures with his awesome Bloodborne spell.
It's awesome. Gotta point that out. It was very clear that he was working for that, generating as many. He was very much ahead in the creep game, but by dedicating so much of his resources towards that, MaSer was really pressuring him in the sense that he had all the momentum. The difference between health was pretty massive, especially when MaSer decided to pull the trigger. At one point, he dropped Brian down to 7 health, and it looked like he was almost dead. But the amount it's what Variax does. Even though you may be almost dead, your opponent is on the clock, man. If he cannot pressure you enough and take you out, you just can't beat the opponent with a regular value game at that point, because with one Bloodborne spell with 3 mana, you're generating so much power, so much value that it's just going to go downhill really fast. We don't rarely see Variax in Cassava because Cassava has other win conditions such as Revenant, Spam, and Obliterate. But I think it definitely was very strong in this particular, in the mirror, because what does an opposing Cassava do against that if you lose the creep game? So very intriguing to see, Brian use Variax, because I haven't seen him use Variax with Cassava before. And I would like to know exactly what his reasoning was for bringing it.
Mm-hmm. The first time that it hit the table, though, of course, obviously, especially once a Kalino was drawn, things were pretty much sealed. But there was the point after Variax first hit the table that MaSer did a good job of thinking, okay, I need to start closing in, get away from the Shadow Creep tiles, and try and discover my win condition. So Skarzig, what do you have to say about his reactivity in that moment and his ability to get Elena down to that 7 HP at one point?
MaSer went in to bottle him up onto the right side of the board, started developing his own Shadow Creep tiles to box him in, and then went in with a double Primus Fist on that Dancing Blades to get that huge 8 damage hit to pressure her down. The Elena was almost dead there. We were like, oh my god, if he gets Spectral Revenant or something, then this could seal it. Maybe even Obliterate would have sealed it. I think it would have done just enough damage to clear some bodies out of the way for her to go, for MaSer to go in for the kill. But really good taking advantage of that early drop in tempo. Between when you play Variax and before you can actually cast that Bloodborne spell, there's a vulnerability there. And he took advantage of that as much as he could, but it just didn't pay off in the end.
Mm-hmm. Well, looking at what game number 2 is, we're not quite done with our mirror matches because now we're going to have a Riva mirror on both sides between MaSer and Elena here. So it looks like they're just keeping in that same vein. And even though MaSer had the opportunity to stay with Cassava if he wanted, instead decided to switch it out here on out. So let's go ahead and hop into game number 2 between MaSer and Elena, rocking the Riva with the series currently in Elena's favor, 1-0. But it is best of 5, so there are many more games to come. Let's go.
And so to jump right in here, MaSer, before he mulliganed for his opening hand, had like 2 4-wins Magi's. And so this is, I would say, quote unquote, a standard list, definitely more spell reliant. And MaSer also taking a slower route, not being greedy and just equipping the Blood Rage Mask to take advantage of that extra mana. Wants to save it for a later, more explosive turn.
Yeah, especially considering you're facing Riva, which has a very easy time pinging opposing artifacts. Very intriguing hand by Elena, though. I'm looking at that Mirror Meld, and I'm looking at that Kaido Assassin, which you don't regularly see. I'm liking Elena. I've always thought of Elena as or Brian. It's Spain. Elena is a female name, and that always throws me off. I'll just call it Brian, because otherwise I'm going to call her a she. But basically, Brian has always struck me as somewhat of a standard player in the sense that he always tends to run lists that are not really, they're pretty standard. Like a lot of the stuff that he uses is, not the most, it doesn't shock you with the meme factor. And I'm seeing a lot of dankness today from him. Not only Grandmaster Variax, but now Mirror Meld and Kaido Assassin with Riva. Like, I am intrigued. I am interested to see what this list is trying to pull off.
Yeah, the Kaido Assassin is a pretty interesting inclusion. Kaido Assassin is pretty similar to Katara. It doesn't have as strong of a backstab, but that extra point of attack can sometimes make the difference when you're just trying to get some plain base damage in. Kaido is stronger when it doesn't get its backstab, right? Which sometimes is harder to set up against your opponent.
Yeah. It's not vulnerable to Tiger, which is the main weakness Katara has, is Tiger food. So that's important to note out. Even though Songhai does not tend to run Tiger, they tend to run Tuskspore instead, so it's not as relevant. But it is true that Kaido is less potential damage output than Katara from the backstab position, but everything else, it's a very solid lead, and the 2 attack makes it really flexible in that sense. It doesn't rely as much on the backstab as Katara does, but it's also worth 2 mana. So, but it's good to combine. Like I think it's not bad to have Kaido alongside Katara, which makes killing it that much more valuable because you have more targets to give it to that will draw you an extra card. It's just interesting to see what he's trying to work towards. I think Chakri Avatar with Mirror Meld is something that he should be aiming to combine. It's always a question about how to sequence it, though.
Yeah, you have to sequence it correctly because the Chakri Avatars need to get buffed at least 3 times to get out of to be threats and get out of range of the Phoenix Fire, right? The Heartseeker is there to help finish it off. The Lantern Fox is there as well. So this needs to become huge to survive through all of that.
Oh boy, this is some burst. And he's not even that, he's still got a Killing Edge and a Phoenix Fire in hand. That is just, oh my god, that's power. That's actually power.
Does the Mirror Meld carry over with the Inner Focus effect?
No, it does not. It does not.
Okay.
That Chakri Avatar is actually exhausted right now.
Oh my god, use your whole hand, Brian. Go in.
Oh man, but that's so powerful. Look, he's still got a lot of resources though. Misragon, he's got positioning altering, he's got buff, and he's got out of hand damage that can target anything. So he's got a lot of toys to play with the following turn. And 2 huge bodies there. Really, really making use out of Mirror Meld right there. Reminded me of good old Udo Pro and Wicked Flux when Chimzar was released. They really like to abuse that card a lot, and showcase. It's so strong when combined properly. This is beautiful.
Mirror Meld was never actually nerfed. They nerfed a lot of the combo that went alongside it, but when you just use it as a standalone value generation tool to copy your Chakri Avatar, then that's when it really shines, in my opinion.
Yep. Elena taking quite a bit of damage here, but oh my god, this burst. Oh, this is ridiculous. Oh, this could be game. This could actually be game.
How much damage is this? I don't know. I think that may be lethal.
Hang on, that's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, plus 12. That's lethal. Holy crap!
Lethal. That's actually
The double Chakri Avatar is absolutely way too strong.
what? This is nuts. Oh my god.
Mirror Meld coming out from Elena right now to seal that game very convincingly.
Elena, he just took down a 25 HP general in one turn because of that setup. When he was at what, 7, 9, really low health?
He was at 8. He was at 8 HP.
Oh my gosh, that is insane. So kind of taking a look at these matches. So in the first one, we saw Grandmaster Variax wasn't really expecting it. In the second game, we saw the Mirror Meld, wasn't really expecting it. So Mogwai, is Elena capitalizing upon these cards that haven't really changed or gotten as much attention but aren't weak, so he's really pulling the strength out of them?
I think so. Like, he's literally won with the unorthodox options, even though calling Mirror Meld unorthodox seems a little bit weird because it's still a really good card. Mm-hmm. But it is true that after the Mana Vortex nerf, its usage dropped quite a bit, and it's not been prevalent in the majority of, top tier or considered to be top tier Shanghai lists. Today, we just saw Brian win round 1 with a Grandmaster Virix in Cassava.
I absolutely love this. Now that the a few tournaments have been played here and there, and they're really starting to feel out the card pool. Everybody's starting to remember the old stuff. Brian right now is bringing to the table cards that are, again, powerful, but when you look at them can be inconsistent. But now he's setting up these situations where these cards can really go off, like abusing the cast of a mirror to let the ultra slow Variax shine with the Fiend generation, Mirror Meld running it alongside Chakri Avatar and Kaido Assassin in the deck to get that double generation of really threatening bodies is enormous. He caught MaSer at the perfect time where he didn't have removal for such large bodies and just went right through them.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is Conquest format, so once his deck has a victory on it, he can put it to rest kind of thing. So do you think, Mogwai, that maybe if Elena didn't get a victory with those decks in game 1, that he could have a disadvantage because his so-called secret, these kind of surprise cards, would then be revealed?
Yeah, kind of yes and no, because it is true that, knowing that your opponent has that in their deck changes your plays a little bit. At the end of the day, even if your opponent is running Variax at that point, you can't really alter your deck to be more aggressive. You can change your approach, most definitely. But I think it would have been more relevant with the Cassava matchup rather than the Shanghai one, because with Shanghai, Mirror Meld is one of those cards that you can see it coming, but if your opponent executes it well, it don't matter. You're going to suffer.
And now we do have the information. It looks like game number to be rocking Starhorn. MaSer is sticking with Riva.
Were you right about the dance of memes?
I hope so. I swear to God. That's all I need right now. Kill it. Brian, if you have Dancing Dreams Starhorn, I love you.
Well, now we'll just have to go ahead and find out if he is to keep Mogwai very, very happy here. So game number 3 between MaSer and Elena, with Elena on the starting side with Starhorn, and then MaSer keeping to the Riva in game number 3, where he does have to turn this around if he wants to stay in this matchup, because his only hope now is to reverse sweep Elena, whereas Elena just needs that victory on Starhorn. So let's go ahead and find out if the series is done in game 3 or if we're going to be pushing on to the future.
All right, so to jump in here, I'm really glad to see Elena running this. I've seen it before where you'll get reverse swept because you just can't pull out that last win with your third deck. Your opponent knows already. Once you lose that first game, they go into their next 2 decks knowing your list inside and out, right? But Starhorn, historically, isn't very matchup dependent. If he just draws well, you get that free win almost. So we'll see if Elena is favored here by the gods of MaSer. Already
like
very
opening.
strong opening with the
Very
wings of
strong
MaSer
opening.
and the helm.
The helm taking the center of the board, which means that it can access either of the two mana tiles directly, and that is such a huge deal. Elena just immediately pressuring the opponent, double Entropic Gaze in his hand. He can actually make MaSer mill this turn, which is pretty ridiculous if you think about it. He can actually move the... Well, he needs to be wary of juxtaposition, though. We see Elena replace, preserving both Entropic Gazes, because he can go with both his turn and make him mill. I think this is a proper turn to do so.
And the other aspect of that, too, is MaSer has a Sojourner on the board. So that forces MaSer to start playing a lot more cards, right, to avoid having the Sojourner mill stuff.
He can attack like the Sojourner with his own Wings of the MaSer and make him mill as well. Because he doesn't lose much on it, but then again, he does leave it vulnerable for it to like die the next turn. But I think he's gonna go for it anyways. That's like a spiral technique. Turn 2, ladies and gentlemen. That's a lot of damage. That's a lot of damage, and indeed, he does make him.
Chakri Avatar.
Oh, Chakri, bye-bye, Chakri.
Chakri sent to the Shadow Realm.
Wow.
That's really unfortunate to see, especially with all of these spells in hand. A Chakri Avatar could really do work, because against a MaSer deck, if you're able to develop one enormous threat that they can't deal with, then you just roll them over. We saw that a little bit earlier today.
That's crazy. I think he opts to keep the Spelljammer, which makes sense, but you got to be careful with Spelljammer. You don't really need that much draw against Starhorn, because he'll kind of draw for you with his Bloodborne spell. But he needs a body, though.
He needs a body. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Spelljammer, Elena could just potentially leave it alive, getting an extra card per turn, and it's going to get really ridiculous here.
Without a doubt. I think he has to go with the juxtaposition here to trade off the spots with... I would trade off the Sojourner. Yeah, keep the Spelljammer closer. It is a bigger body. Remove the 2/2 so that it can't do anything funky, and inner focus your own Spelljammer to get some damage on him so that you don't...
He doesn't want to mill anymore.
Yeah. But Starhorn will make a mill anyways because of the Spelljammer, which is why it's not the best minion to utilize in this matchup. But like I said, it was the only body he had available. He does have Chakri again, though, and double inner focus. Oh, my God.
So we do see some really big potential damage next turn for MaSer. We'll see if Elena can capitalize on what he has in hand. Do you replace the Plasma Storm here, or do you think it's actually going to come in handy?
I think Plasma Storm is always strong against Sahai, even though in this particular case, looking at his hand, we both see that Chakri Avatar can easily bypass that 3-attack barrier, and 4-Winds is immune to it, so it's not going to be that useful here, but I would keep it because I don't know my opponent's hand, and Plasma kills a lot of stuff. Plasma kills Katara, Lantern Fox, Heartseekers, etc., etc. So it's good to keep it, even though it doesn't seem like it's going to be particularly useful here. Let's see what he does, because he needs to create some distance.
So he's going to back off, probably play the cannon, because he does have Thumping Wave for it next turn.
Yep. I like that approach. Even though Riva doesn't struggle too much with reaching, and that Phoenix Fire can enable her to easily pick it off, but Elena, Brian, is already at 80%, unless I'm mistaken. 80%. He just needs one more MaSer unit, which he has in hand, and he gets MaSer out. So I like the fact that he retreated, because even though he has much more health than MaSer, there's no reason to get closer to him and be vulnerable to more damage when you have a giant robot that's going to come onto the board very soon. And I think this inner focus is going to be applied onto Chakri easily, and MaSer is going for the kill here. MaSer is not playing around. MaSer knows that MaSer could very well happen next turn, and he's going for damage, yo. He's going for damage. Rightfully so. Heartseeker to even buff up the Chakri Avatar even more. And we may see double inner focus here, but I like the idea of him keeping it. Well, let's see.
Yeah, so he's going to inner focus the Chakri Avatar. It gets buffs to a 4/5. He could save the other. I think now that he's managed to empty his hand a little bit more, the inner focus will actually combo with the Tusk Boar, potentially to get another rotation of that 2 damage.
Yeah, I like him preserving. It's smarter. It's smarter. He's got a lot of damage out of hand. Like, MaSer has a lot of burst going on for him.
I think that the play here
Yeah.
might be Plasma Storm. And well, you trade the helm in first. You have the helm hit the Plasma Storm, and then you just kill the Chakri with your general, and then you clear the board, and then you have the potential to play Mechazor on an empty board. What do you think about that?
It's not easy to say because I think I would go for Mechazor this turn, honestly. I would focus on clearing the board, and I would go for Mechazor. I think it's just too valuable here. And you can actually Thumping Wave something, too, if he doesn't want to take any extra damage. But I think Mechazor is the play to make, and keeping it close to MaSer is key because it can't be targeted by just a position, for example. So if he does have like something like a random, like a Shroud, it's not really going to be too relevant.
Mm-hmm.
So
because of Chakri Avatar. Yeah, because of the Chakri Avatar, MaSer has the potential to buff that thing up and then just kill the Mechazor outright with it.
Yep, indeed. And he's going to Thumping Wave the Chakri. Yep, very nicely done.
Oh,
Very nicely
right,
done.
I see.
Yep.
So he has the answer for that, and really nice distance created. He's down in the corner.
He's at 15 health. Let's see how much damage output could he potentially have. Chakri. Oh, wait.
Chakri, Inner Focus. Killing Edge, Mist Dragon, Seal.
How much damage is that? That's 3 spells. That's triple spells, which buffs up. No, he's actually not going with the Chakri Avatar play here. He's actually not going for it. He's gonna kill Mechazor. He's gonna kill Mechazor.
Okay.
Very nicely done. Very nicely done by MaSer.
Okay, so taking out the Mechazor is a long-term game plan for this deck, where you take out your opponent's main threat, and then you say, okay, now that you've ran to the other side of the board, I'm Briva, I can now have my way with you.
Indeed. Now, he misplay here. He's decided to develop Chakri Avatar now after going for the Mist Dragon Seal, which he could have done so earlier. So definitely gonna suffer the consequence there. But it seems pretty fine in that sense. We're gonna see a Killing Edge applied onto the. He has to apply it to the Spelljammer, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Attacking him with that, and that Chakri, it has 4 health. It's still vulnerable to a Mechanical War Beast. He does have it, and Plasma Storm. I think that's...
so he by missing that extra buff from the Mist Dragon Seal, he can now punish this board with a Plasma Storm.
And I think he's going to do just that. He's going to get the damage on him. Potentially
of course.
Yeah, potentially... He can't use wings to develop anything because even if he had extra damage, like nothing on his hand survives a Plasma Storm. So Plasma gonna come in clean here. Not what you would expect from an aggressive Starhorn. Or maybe you do. Maybe that's silly for me to say, but it's not something that you don't expect like that sort of removal from these decks normally. But I think it is a thing, though. I think Plasma Storm is pretty prevalent in the metagame anyways, regardless of what archetype you run. As we see a Tusk 4B developed there to eliminate the Helm of the Mechazor and a Lantern Fox.
Lantern Fox plus Heart Seeker. Again, this split threat that Elena probably won't be able to deal with.
Yep. This is actually very bad for him. This is very bad for him because I see Mechazor has already been answered, and I think I would replace Rancor here.
Yeah, because you don't want to take any more damage regardless. The Rancor just gets answered by like a Phoenix Fire for free. If he wants to be a little cheeky with it, technically a...
Ooh, so close.
He's got the 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the 9 damage burst.
With the if he had 1 more mana, he still would not have lethal. He needs to work to get a little bit more damage on him. He needs to apply his Bloodborne spell here. The problem is you're also giving your opponent. Oh man, I don't think he can avoid lethal here, because he hits this. He drops down to 11. Lantern Fox hits him for 2, Heartseeker for 1, and double Phoenix Fire kills him here. Unless I'm mistaken, Elena is doomed. 11 health, that's death, because Lantern Fox plus double Phoenix Fire is 8, Heartseeker is 9. Actually, no. I think.
So he's body blocking the Lantern Fox. The
Yeah,
Lantern Fox
good job.
can kill the cannon, and then he uses the Phoenix Fire to kill the
Never
Rancor.
mind.
So in a way, that's a little bit what I was talking about, where the Rancor basically heals him for free.
It does, in a way. Like, it does demand that removal, without a doubt. He's surrounding him, though, and he's clearing his board. This is looking very, very grim for Elena. He needs a little bit more damage, but he just doesn't have it. He actually is going to replace the... Oh!
So he's got the 9 damage burst again, 10, 11 damage burst because of the
Not enough.
Seeker.
Missing out by two. He's been shut down. MaSer's in a very solid position. I don't know what Elena can do here. I don't know what Elena can do here to come out on top. I think he just can't finish this off. I think MaSer's gonna take this.
Because he played 2 Entrop early, just to get that damage out there.
Exactly. He's already used
and
2
draw.
of them.
So he can't really rely on that. He could play the Tectonic Spikes first.
Oh, he's going all in.
But what do you get here at 1 mana is what
I don't think there's anything he can draw here. And he certainly doesn't draw it anyways. He goes for the Bloodborne spell, and seems that's all she wrote. He cannot have, he dies a double Phoenix Fire here and Heartseeker. That's a wrap. That is a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. And very easy for MaSer to finish off here, especially considering he'd replace into another Phoenix Fire. GG. Good game. Very good game.
So recognizing that he didn't have lethal, but made the play anyway. Maybe just as a mind game against MaSer, almost you were this close to losing, to kind of maybe shake him up a little bit rather than just going for the concede and giving MaSer that overconfidence, right? Of saying, yeah, that's right, I stomped you in, saying you won by the skin of your teeth, my friend, keeping him on his toes.
Fair. Yeah, this has a lot to do just as much with keeping a strong mentality and getting into the head of your opponent as it does with skill and knowing the current meta. One thing that we have seen with mech decks, so when you work so hard to get that mech onto the table, if it's taken care of, you are in a very tough position. So is that just going to be something that, Elena could potentially struggle with in these next games as well, Mogwai, being that he just saw MaSer able to take out mech even when he was able to get it out there?
Well, it's definitely key, and it's definitely very clear that MaSer now knows exactly what he's facing, that he knows he has to defeat Mechazor. So from now on, every single game, in order for him to bring this back, he has to defeat Starhorn twice more. Like, he has to beat him 2 more times. But I think he can very well do so if he focuses on the fact that he needs to preserve his removal, because MaSer has defeated him with Songhai, correct? So he has... What are the other 2 factions that he has left?
Faye and Cassava.
Faye can very easily deal with Mechazor, especially if he's running Enfeeble. Cassava can struggle with it a bit more, so that will be a more intriguing matchup because Starhorn can rush Cassava really efficiently. But if I'm MaSer, I go with Faye now, without a doubt. I go with Faye, and I just try to get my second win because of all my outstanding removal. Vanar is the king of removal, and Chromatic Cold and Enfeeble will just say no to Mechazor. We'll laugh at it, be like, yeah, you tried. At least you tried.
And it looks like that's exactly how things are going to play out in the next game as far as the selection of generals goes, because Elena has no choice but to stick with Starhorn, and then Faye is the choice of MaSer for the next game. So, Skarzig, do you agree with that in the sense that considering how much removal is available to Vanar, that this is going to be a struggle for Elena in that matchup?
We saw this a little bit earlier where Faye, with the Enfeeble, it's so strong, super good. And it's pretty much has the strongest matchup out of the 2 remaining generals against Meg Starhorn. And so definitely smart to pick up this quote-unquote free win before you head into the more uncertain one. You get to fatigue your opponent a little bit more and then go into that next game. Because if he loses again with Starhorn, maybe it puts Elena on tilt. Maybe he's like, crap, am I going to get reverse swept? Maybe starts to overthink. Maybe starts to play, a bit looser, maybe a bit over aggressive, trying to seal out that win. And that's what Cassava wants you to do. You overplay, and then she blows out everything that you tried to develop on the board to threaten, and then runs away with the Shadow Sister Kaleno, and then Mech just insta-loses to Kaleno.
And one thing we do know for sure is these are both very skilled players that tend to keep their heads leveled, whether they're in a winning position or losing position. So really, it's anybody's match currently as we enter game number 4 of the series between MaSer and Elena. Elena on the starting side with Starhorn, and then MaSer bringing through the Fae in hopes that it will counter the Mechazor that is surely to come in this game. So let's see if Elena can close it out in game number 4, or if MaSer pushes this all the way to game number 5.
This Elena on the left, MaSer on the right. We see the Sunset Defender and double healing on his hand, while we do see the Mechazor and the Rancor, which is a very likely lead to happen here. Turn 1 Rancor can be very menacing, and it is indeed what he does. So right off the bat, MaSer has to be careful with that thing, because if you trade with that when you don't want to, it could deal to a lot of damage. And it seems like MaSer is going to immediately ping that to ensure that if it wants to trade with his general, it will die in 1 hit. And it actually only takes 1 step forward, still threatening the mana tile. Like, he's threatening 2 mana tiles now, but also is out of reach from Rancor. Very nice turn by MaSer. Very nice opening.
Interesting, yeah. So putting a little bit of damage control on that Rancor, if it gets buffed up to some astronomical amount, it could just trade into the 2/1 Blood Tier Alchemist or something. If worse comes to worse, it'll just become another victim of Enfeeble. Elena right now having access to potentially a double ramp here.
He does indeed. Yeah, I think that's what he's going to go for. I think we may very well see either Sword of the Mechazor or Cannon of the Mechazor. I think because he's dropping that Helm of the Mechazor there, I think we're going to see the Cannon. Because if he wasn't going to develop the Sword, it would probably be on that mana tile. Though he could also chain summon it. No, but he's going with the Cannon. I like him going with the Cannon. It's a better play this early on in the match, getting a ranged minion that can generate you good value. Mm-hmm. The problem with this line of play is that MaSer can destroy his board. MaSer can very, very much destroy his board with the Frostburn, because he's going to be able to ramp into the mana tile unless he takes this route.
So he recognizes that threat.
Yep. Very smart. By deciding to go with the Sword of the Mechazor instead of Cannon, MaSer can no longer accelerate into Frostburn and can no longer wipe out this board.
Right. So he needs to make this harder trade.
Yep, he needs to. But the thing is, if he wants to trade against that Sword of the Mechazor and eliminate it, he cannot. Yeah, this is a tough situation for him to be in, because he doesn't want to get he doesn't want to enter Rancor's range, which is why he's opting to avoid Sword of the Mechazor, and he's gonna position himself avoiding Frenzy as well. Really nice how Sword of the Mechazor really forced MaSer to take a different line of play due to the Frenzy threat.
Mm-hmm. The threat of Frenzy, the threat of the Rancor to get buffed.
Exactly.
Really strong right now. Elena played around Frostburn that last turn, recognizing that's probably going to come down next turn. At this point, he could make a smart micro decision here, knowing the Frostburn would make the Rancor die anyway, maybe using it to trade into the Healing Mystic rather than his general.
That's true. That could very well be the case. But he could also eliminate the Healing Mystic with his own general and buff up the Rancor. And I think that 2 damage is not something that Elena is worried about right now.
If he buffs the Rancor, he basically forces MaSer to have the Frostburn or to use it. If he's got it, use it if you got it.
But he has to do exactly what you said. I guess against Faye, any sort of damage can make the difference. So avoiding that 2 damage could be the difference between victory or defeat. So yeah, I like that approach. Even though I think we're gonna see a Heart Sister here to take. I wouldn't waste the Chromatic Hold. Chromatic Hold is his answer to Mechazor right now. He has no other answer in his hand, so definitely gonna keep the Chromatic Hold and gonna develop that, placing the Sunset Defender in a more aggressive position, because it can be accessed by the general. So more of an aggressive, turn for MaSer in that sense, instead of keeping that Celestial behind, and he eliminates the cannon very efficiently there.
Yeah, now that he was able to deal with those early mechs, and he even gave up those mana tiles, Elena wasn't really able to play a lot of heavy pressure onto the board. MaSer going in now to pull ahead. Both players still have pretty decent hand sizes. And Elena with right now what was that? Helm, sword, cannon. He just needs to play 2 more pieces and he gets MaSer.
Indeed, he's willing to allow this. Oh, he's got it. MaSer's there.
Now, where do you place it? Because you don't want the Sunsteel to just hit it for free. Because Chromatic Cold Sunsteel is 6.
Yeah. Yep. Indeed. So he's gonna be forced. He's placing it at as close as he can, but just out of the Sunsteel's reach. So Funsteel just a very solid 4-drop because it forces a lot of alterations when it comes to positioning. Definitely very useful here as MaSer is already inside, but MaSer has the answer. MaSer replaces Elki and draws another Sunsteel Defender, moves the Sojourner in, sorry. And opts to actually attack before trading off and preserving Razorback for later.
He's got the Heart Seeker. I love this. Check this out. He can Heart Seek, bring that MaSer into range. It's not targetable by spells, but minion effects still work. He can bring that down so the Sunsteel can hit it. Exactly, and then the Warbird will finish it off.
But he's actually going to opt to do that to eliminate the cannon of the MaSer and ignore the other MaSer for now because Magmar, unlike Vanar, has no positioning altering mechanics. So they cannot, he knows that MaSer has no way of getting closer to him.
Right. Now that it doesn't have ranged, it can just sit over there and be an 8/6 and think about what it's done.
Yep. By the way, somebody in the chat says Heartseeker. I mix up those 2 names. I've always done so. Heartseeker and Heartsister. I just always mix them up. They're just so similar. So I apologize for that.
One interesting thing, though, I'd like to point out is now that MaSer has been dispelled, it can now be targeted by spells. So we could see some dank thumping wave action come through if this survives another turn.
That's 13 damage. That's no joke. That's a lot.
Yeah, so he's going to take out the Sunsteel here, which will increase the chances of this MaSer living. Thinking about whether or not he wants to get damage on the General or take the Sojourner.
Yeah, because after this MaSer, what does MaSer... How does he deal with his massive body, this 8/6? That's a problem. That's a big problem. Like, he's going to have to replace 100% here. He does have, okay, so how much damage with
Razorback 5, 8, 10, 12,
He's got Frostburn here, so he can Frostburn and then have the Sojourner hit the MaSer and then take that 8 damage with his General and drop down to 10.
That's scary, though. That's a lot of damage to take.
That's very risky indeed.
But I think he has to. Because he's missing out on lethal by 2 right now. He's actually going to draw.
Enfeeble! Enfeeble! MaSer recognizing, he says, I have answers to this situation. I just need to draw it. So, draws first, goes for the Enfeeble. I really like that play.
Oh my god, that's crazy.
Oh, man. And gets the
Russian Jugi. He knew he was going to get that Enfeeble. He's like, it's fine. I'll get it.
Oh my god. Enfeeble has been like the Fae MVP so far. It shows up to deal with these crazy threats.
Oh man. Look at that MaSer. Like that MaSer is a shadow of its former self. Poor thing. Such a massive body right there. It's like a 1/1. That's crazy.
So he can at least use it to take the shield away and then get another War Beast in.
Yep. At least,
It can punch the 1/1 Sojourner and stay alive as a 4/3. We'll see if he can come through after this, because it does die to Frostburn if that's ever going to be a thing. At this point, MaSer needs to still kill the War Beast, because if there's nowhere he can walk right now that will protect his face. He actually has the Dancing Blade. Oh my god, this is going to be so clean.
Oh, it's good. It's like when you get such a smooth Dancing Blaze that just knocks out a target that's pretty threatening.
4/3. Yeah.
That feels so good. It's like Dancing Blading an Azure Lion or a Wimbledon Death. That's just money, man.
Yeah,
Absolute
or when
money.
you dispel a deal toss and hit it with your Dancing Blade.
That's glorious. Yeah, man. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. We're gonna see.
Whoa! Oh, he's got
Yeah.
the heart
Oh,
sister.
That's smart. That's smart. That's very smart. Setting up lethal because of the mini Jax spawned by Jax. He's able to get McCantor out of the way, and he's setting up lethal next turn with Razorback. And unless Brian top decks a nope. Brian needs to work on his top decking skills. It's not at the level of MaSer. He needs to visit the mountains of Russia and train there, meditate, and just be like, hey, I need to draw what I need to draw. Come on now. He's gonna fish for it still though. He still has a chance. Nope. Gotta work on that, Brian. That's a wrap. That is a wrap indeed.
He can take out one with natural selection, take out a mini Jax that's general, take out the other mini Jax that's out of reach of the McCantor War Beast, pardon me.
Yep.
Could. It's not even worth it to use the Elucidator.
Yeah, because Elucidator will just put you more towards lethal there. As
Thumping Wave one of them?
He did not do that. He did not deem it worthy, and he's going to die because of that. Because Razorback plus Warbird will seal the deal. He also had Chromatic Hold in hand as well.
Oh,
GG.
yeah. So that was lethal all around.
Yeah, MaSer bringing it back. Woo. 2-2, ladies and gentlemen. 2-2. We could see a reverse sweep in the making. That's crazy. That's actually crazy. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the first time today that we've seen Enfeeble come through in the clutch to Mechazord deck. So, gosh, you gotta feel bad when you spend all that time developing something with so much strength, and then they just come through and make it into this week 1-1. What do you think this says, Skarzig, about the current treatment of Mechazord decks and how mech decks operate in tournament rather than online?
One of the main strengths of Mechazord is that surprise factor. When your opponent isn't expecting it, and then they might even panic a little bit once they see that you're running mechs and they don't have the answer, or maybe they mulliganed that answer in their opening hand and they're waiting for it to come back, then you just close out the game. We haven't seen anything too crazy so far where Megazord's coming out on like turn 3 and stuff, but I think that since this deck broke onto the scene, like, what was it, a week and a half ago, people have come to expect it now and are a bit more prepared with the choices they make when they put their decks together.
Mm-hmm. Now, one thing we've noticed about MaSer's play in particular is he knows when to play back and kind of hold himself back from the fight, whether it's to avoid a big Rancor hit or anything of that sort. But rather than where some players get heavily punished for playing defensively because they can never make it back into the action, he always seems to balance and bring himself back into the fray. So, Mogwai, how does MaSer so effectively balance when to be defensive and when to be aggressive and make his move?
Knowledge and experience. It's as simple as that. MaSer has been playing for a while, and he has competed against the best for on a regular basis. He's one of the top players in my eyes, and I really liked how he approached that match. He took his time. He worked for that Frostburn. He knew when to back. He never gave Rancor a chance, for example. He acknowledges that MaSer is very knowledgeable of what a faction can do and what it can't do. So he adapts to that very well. He knows Magmar has no way to alter their minions' position. Like, they don't have Heart Sisters. They, rip the old Sojourner. No, it's not Sojourner. What was his name? The 3/3. What was the neutral one? What was it called? The one that gave you +1/+1 in flying before. Now it gives you +1/+1.
Oh, Songweaver.
The Songweaver. There we go. Like, rip old Songweaver. That gave Magmar so much power. That was crazy. But he knows that Magmar has no way to do that, and you can see that in his plays a lot. You can see a lot of the decisions that he makes. Against another faction, he would have been more vulnerable. But it's just, like I said, experience, and he just executes really well. And he never gives up until he knows there's no way to win. And that I can see that easily when I see his matches. That's why I enjoy it. He's very good.
Now, the only generals that are left for both of these players, Elena, has no other choice but to use Starhorn, and then I believe Cassava is the only thing left for MaSer. So Skarzik, thoughts on that matchup, especially considering the pressure that comes on in Game 5 when both of these players know that this is the deciding match?
Now, I was able to touch on this just a little bit. The Mechazor versus Cassava matchup. We know that MaSer is playing a pretty standard Cassava, not anything, crazy with Variax, right? And so when you go into that matchup, Mechazor has a little bit of a chance to stick around because all of Cassava's removal is spell-based. We know that Cassava generally does like to run Ephemeral Shroud sometimes, and so we could see a little bit of that. If the Ephemeral Shroud comes down or a Light Bender or something, those are going to be the two options that Cassava typically uses that can be repurposed to deal with Mechazor. But barring that, I think that Mechazor could really run roughshod over here. Cassava likes to play towards the late game, so there's a chance that MaSer's Cassava deck lacks the early game tools to take advantage of that early slump in pressure present in Mechazor decks where they're playing these suboptimal bodies.
Yeah, and all of that is very important to consider in game number 5 here, where there are clear winning conditions for both sides, and they're just hoping, let's hope that my deck prevails in this scenario. So game number 5 between Elena and MaSer is Elena on the starting side with Starhorn, and MaSer on side number 2 with Cassava. It is currently 2-2, so this will determine who walks away with a win in round number 2 of the Swiss bracket.
And so, to get into this match, we see that MaSer has the Ephemeral Shroud in his opening hand. From the Mulligan phase, we know that he's running at least 2 in this deck, again, which is something that Cassava generally does run. And so he knows he'll need to hold on to that Ephemeral Shroud to counter the Mechazor as soon as it drops.
Exactly. I think we're not going to see that Ephemeral Shroud being replaced nor played. And it's going to be specifically preserved for that because that's kind of like the best tool Cassava has. Once she gets the spell Mechazor, there's so many ways she can deal with it. She can punish it, demonic lure away, it becomes much easier. But that spell immunity is very key because that's why Aegis Barrier is tremendous against Cassava. That's why Cassava really relies on Ephemeral Shroud, in my opinion, because he's vulnerable to those kind of antics. And MaSer will definitely preserve that without a doubt, and reserve it for that reason. Good opening, strong opening there, being able to eliminate, prevent the ramp, but I don't think that's truly relevant considering Elena is going to go with the canning of the Mechazor play anyways. And the thing is, he's going to, where do you position this? He opts to not take the center of the board. Oh, because he wants to take that.
Yeah, okay, he wants to play the helm, and then he gets to play the cannon. Right behind him there, he gets a nice range unit. This is going to MaSer's going to have an easy time dealing with these individual Mechazor pieces and bodies because you can just clean them up with your general or what have you. One of the interesting aspects of this matchup is going to be the Shadow Sister Kaleno.
Indeed. It's Cassava's main tool to not get just completely run over by Starhorn because Starhorn is much faster than Cassava, and that's one of Cassava's main weaknesses, being rushed down, being beaten down early, because her main power comes from the late game. Even though MaSer is already running a bit low on options, 3 cards in hand, all of them 4 drops, pretty sure he's going to be fishing for other things. It'll be interesting to see how this pans out. Wait.
And shout out to the he dispelled that cannon. Yes,
oh,
exactly.
Yeah. I was like, where's this shroud? He dispelled. Ooh, he's got to be careful.
Yeah, he dispelled the shroud, even though Elena has 60% Mechazor completion right now, 80% now with the wings being played. He has another cannon in hand. I think he can actually assemble Mechazor this turn. Yep, there it is.
Oh, are you kidding me?
And this is what I was kind of talking about, where you potentially can get Mechazor out super early. This is the fastest, I think, so far that Elena has managed to put the Mechazor together.
Wow. This could be the end. This could actually be the end. Oh my god.
And now that MaSer just used that Ephemeral Shroud, probably not expecting the Mechazor to drop on the next turn.
Time. Oh no.
I mean, here's the thing. Mechazor has 8 damage. There's the cannon on the board, so that's 10 damage, 11 damage from the Wings of Megazord, 12, 13 damage. So
Well,
he
he's gonna be
does
able to
have
look at the
potentially another. He does potentially have another turn.
Yeah, it's still.
Oh, he's got the Abyssal Scar. Okay.
Yeah, no, he can clear the can of the Megazord. So we'll be taking next turn. He can take a total of 9 damage with the combination of the wings on top, which does reach MaSer's general. But MaSer's going all in. MaSer knows that he has to. This is the approach he has to make. He has to go for the kill here. Like he cannot. But the thing is, Cassiva does not. He can't even replace it into. Oh man, this is tough.
Spectral Revenant or anything. There's no Shadow Creep on the board, so Ghost Azalea, Obliterate isn't going to be an option to close this out. He needs to have something else. Shadow Reflection, Saber Spine, like those sorts of things aren't really run in Cassiva, aren't really seen in the tournament scene. Using that Ephemeral Shroud on the cannon of Megazord was something that we were not expecting to see. I would have much rather he just held onto it and found some other that 2 damage ping.
I'm not sure because is Elena playing a little bit too conservative here? He has to be careful because that he could have gone for the Tectonic Spikes.
Because he does have the Decimus synergy in here.
There's the Revenant. There's Kalino. There's Punish. That Megazord is a problem though. That Megazord is such a problem.
Yeah, he's
That's
already set
such
up.
a problem.
He's already set up like the 2-turn lethal, right? Because he's at 15.
Oh man.
And now he's got the Decimus possibly coming out. He's got the Mecantor War Beast coming out. And the Revenant's not going to be able to drop for 2 more turns. Shadow Sister might be able to actually buy him another turn if the Megazord's forced to punch it.
Oh, that Void Pulse is really good too. And he can apply Revenant next turn. The thing is, okay, so that Kalino could very well keep him alive. All right, so we see the Thumping Wave. So he goes, no, he should have him, right? Okay, yeah, because
let me see. It's 8, 9, 10, and then 14 from the Mecantor War Beast. He just goes face right here.
I think he kills him. He's got lethal. He's got lethal because he Thumping Waves that. He attacks with Megazord, then hits with his Yeah,
so that's lethal. Yeah. So
oh my
just crunching
God.
numbers. Woo!
Wow.
That was
man.
Elena was able to ramp that Megazord out like 1 turn ahead of where the game would have just completely ran away from him with the Shadow Sister
mana.
and then the oh my god, this is
turn 3 Megazord. Turn 3 Megazord when going
that
first.
is the potential of that deck where it can just pull out a win when the Megazord and we can't chalk it up completely to turn 3 Megazord. So MaSer played the Ephemeral Shroud that we thought he was going to hold on to for dear life. He knew what he was getting himself into.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's one thing to play the odds for sure.
I like how MaSer says in the chat, he says, this is why you don't lure 1-drop, guys. Acknowledging his own potential mistakes there, not wanting him to ramp up, and that, because that forced him to use the Shroud on the cannon the following turn because he no longer had said demonic lore, so...
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think of that implication.
Yeah, I mean, one thing to think, too, so when it comes to a Megazord being on the table... 2 options. Either one, take out the mech as soon as possible, or try and rush the win before it gets complete value. Do you think Mega Mogwai in this scenario, because Cass is usually wanting to go to a later game, since there wasn't that Dispel in hand, that makes the rushing the win a lot less viable, and thus in this matchup even more beneficial to get the Megazord out early?
Yeah, like if you, no general out there wants to see a turn 3 Megazord.
Right.
That's just something you don't want to see. But it is true that Cassiva is more vulnerable to it, especially if she has no way of dealing with the Megazord. And like her only true way of dealing with it is Ephemeral Shroud. So I'm pretty sure MaSer was not expecting him to be able to develop Megazord so early. But it really came down to that Demonic Lore, I feel. That Demonic Lore turn 1 to avoid him ramping, potentially costing the game. And at the same time, like I said, turn 3 Megazord is not something you see on a regular basis. So that was very fortunate for Brian as well. And he ended up getting the win with Starhorn after 2 losses in a row. He managed to pull it away. And that was really, I just want to emphasize, that was a really close set of games. Very, super close. Like I said, these 2 players are very evenly matched. And I enjoyed these matches, man. They were really nice.
Yeah. All the way down to the final game, which I'm pretty sure both of us predicted.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of you thought he was going to go to a 3-2 matchup. Now,
Didn't
let's
go
see.
that way.
Yeah, didn't quite go in Mogwai's favor this time around, leaving Skarzig as the prediction winner for round number 2. But yeah, that was so back and forth, and I don't think anyone could have really honestly have predicted going into game 5 with full certainty, feeling 100% about who is going to win that. And is it fair to say, Skarzig, one of the things too when it comes to Cassiva, if you don't have Dispel, a lot of the removal targets minions rather than targeting a space. So you kind of really need to keep something in hand to deal with that mech.
Yeah, absolutely. With Cassiva, her removal is so good, and that's just like one weakness that Abyssian has always had: the lack of Dispel. That's just something they just don't have. And at one point in this game's history, it basically blocked them from the meta entirely, having that lack of Dispel. And so we just happen to see that be brought to bear. It's just a matter of exploiting the weakness of a faction.
Indeed. Well, looking at how everything turned out then, we had a 3-2. These are all very, very strong players, and we're going to hop into round number 3 in just a bit, with the match being between Panda JJ and Jerma. So everybody sit back and relax, and we'll be returning in just a moment with our next series.